Good afternoon, folks. Tim Pitchford here. We're here for another live session of Musician's Mind. This is episode number 5, and today I'm coming at you live from the Star Casino here in Broadbeach on the Gold Coast, sunny Gold Coast. I've got a bit of pool hair going on here. I'm in my sort of relaxed stuff. And today I've got an awesome guest coming on. His name is Jason Merkin from Avarist. He is the guitarist of Avarist. I'm super excited to have a chat to him today about all things mental health in the creative world. It's all about raw talk, raw music, and we're just going to have this conversation together. And I'm going to ask a few questions. If anyone's been following this over the last little bit, you guys will know what this is all about. But just having these open conversations with people about all things mental health, because in this creative world we suffer so much, or at least some of us do, with just keeping up. Really, I have had my moments, and I know many other musicians have as well. And since putting out my own worries, my own thoughts, my own issues and surrounding mental health, other people have come to me and said, hey man, I'm suffering too, so let's talk. So just open up these conversations. That's what this is all about. But without further ado, I'm going to get Jason on board, but also just a reminder that it's not in this video because I can't activate the fundraiser feature with a live video in this way when it's scheduled, but I do have a fundraiser going for Beyond Blue. They do amazing things here in Oz. If you are suffering in any way, shape or form with mental health, please reach out to someone, friend, family, whoever it might be, professional services. There's hotlines and helplines and things everywhere. You don't have to suffer alone, even though you might feel it. I've been down that road many times, and that's always the hardest thing. The first step to accept or to getting help is accepting help. So let's see how we go with that. Let's get Jason on board here now. Wait for it. Accept it. There he is.
Hey, how's it going?
Jason, I'm good, my man. How are you?
Doing awesome, man. Doing awesome.
That's so good. Thank you so much for agreeing to jump on to this call, this conversation. Episode 5 we are at now, and international yet again. Yet again.
That's awesome. What is it? About one o'clock in the afternoon, Monday, your
We're
time, 1:30?
1:30 Monday, and if my
Crazy.
calculations are correct, 8:30 in Phoenix,
Yep, you got it,
Arizona.
buddy.
Arizona, the land of the Americas.
Yeah.
Wonderful stuff, man. Wonderful stuff. Real quick, Jason, give us a quick rundown for those that might not know who you are and what you do. Can you just maybe give us a 30-second introduction to Jason Merkin?
Yeah, sure. I've been a musician for a long time now. I started playing guitar, I think when I was about 13. My parents got divorced when I was 10. And my mom joined some different groups to meet other divorcees, I guess. And so we ended up hanging out with this other family, another uh, family that had a son that was close to my age, and then a daughter that was close to my sister's age. And we hung out with them a few times, and then they came over to our house one day, and I don't even remember his name, but the son had brought over an acoustic guitar,
Mm,
and he just started jamming out on some Green Day, and I was like
nice.
totally blown away, at that time, and I was like, that was the moment that I knew that I wanted to pick up the guitar and learn how to play, and so my parents were thankfully super receptive to that, and
Yep.
they helped get me my first kind of starter guitar. I think I had some kind of acoustic or something initially, and my mom had a friend of hers that sort of taught me a couple things real quick. I mean, I think she bought him like a case of beer or something like that for a half hour session.
That's so
Um,
good.
and then after that, I got like formal lessons. So I, started taking, guitar lessons at a couple different music stores, and then went on to, be in a couple different bands in high
Hmm.
school and college.
Hmm.
Took music in college as well. I took classical guitar and jazz guitar, and like music theory and ear training and all that. And wasn't a super huge fan of all of the theory stuff, but
Hmm.
it definitely helped. I probably don't remember any of it by now, but uh, but yeah, it was a great experience. And I was trying to think of a way when I was in college to somehow make a living at this. And at the time, I had a band in college called Stunned, and we were together for about 6 years and put out some albums and got in front of some scouts and things like that, some smaller record labels, and they started looking at us, but things happen, and we ended up breaking up.
Hmm.
I think right towards the end of when I was graduating from college. So, and yeah, I did say 6 years, and I was on the extra long program
Wow.
in college, changing my major a bunch of times. But I ultimately decided that maybe I should do something in business instead, and keep the music as the side hustle, hobby, passion,
Yeah, fair
and
enough.
that's kind of what it is today. So,
Yeah, right. Rock and roll. And now, of course, you're in the awesome band Everest.
yep,
Um,
yeah.
and how long you been going together now for? Like every year and a half, maybe 2 years?
Everest is almost 3 years in at this point,
Wow.
actually. Yeah.
That's a spin out.
Yeah.
That's a spin out. Crazy,
So we're
man.
about almost 3 years in. We've had a few different lineup changes, of
Hmm.
course, as you might expect.
Hmm.
So we have a different drummer than when we started, and a new lead singer that came on
Hmm.
board with us back in March of this year. So
Hmm. Yeah, awesome. And of course, full disclosure, obviously, so this is how we know each other.
yeah,
We met through, not through Avarice, it was before Avarice, so on Fiverr, another
right.
one of my Fiverr connections. And you hired me to do some vocals and production for some of your songs. Um, which was super fun. And I heard these meaty, awesome, heavy, rocky songs. I'm like, yeah, this is what I want to be doing. I want to sing to this stuff. So I
Yeah.
did, and we hit it off. We had a great sort of working relationship for so long. Um, and then, of course, I couldn't exactly come to America and be your vocalist as much as I wanted to.
Oh
But you
God.
you
Yeah.
start you start started Everest and auditioned some singers and we went backwards and forwards again. I did some pre-production for a few of your songs and things like that, which has been awesome. Um, and then, of course, very recently, like what, gosh, it's a little while ago now. When was it that you came over here?
June.
End of June.
Yeah, I think end of
Yeah.
June, early July. Early
I
July.
mean,
Yeah.
and we got to meet in person, which was
It
insane.
was
And we
awesome.
spent
Yeah.
a few nights at my place, and then you stayed on the coast for a week or so. Yeah, it was unreal, man,
Yeah, it
unreal.
was a
And
great
and
experience.
oh man, all round. And I was still in this sort of weird daze from just having gone to Europe and coming back. But the whole idea that you were there because of music and because we'd connected through music just absolutely blew my mind. Still does
Yeah,
to this day.
same.
That, you know,
Same here.
this worldwide, and I've said this to so many people that I've met doing this, and it's this worldwide thing. But we might live in different countries, we might have slightly different accents, we might have all these other differences and variables, but music has brought us together, and there's just no borders. It's this connection. It's crazy, man. It
Yeah.
just blows my mind.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
absolutely,
Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
And I guess to add a little color to that too, I mean, the whole reason, kind of that you alluded to that, I decided to start this band about 3 years ago was from those solo tracks that I had
Mm,
started recording. And then you actually weren't the first person that I worked with on Fiverr.
that's right.
There was a couple that I was so new to it, I really had no idea what I was doing, but I had a couple of song ideas, and I thought it might be somebody had told me about it, and so initially I found some guy in Italy, and he did one song with me, which
Mm,
happens to be a current song that we do now
hmm.
in Aforest called Euphoria that we just released a couple weeks ago, not too long ago actually.
Mm,
And then there was another girl in the
mm,
UK
mm.
that kind of looked and sounded just like Avril Lavigne. And that
That's
was kind
right.
of
I
like
remember
yeah,
this. Yeah.
kind of like a pop rock song that turned out really cool. And you helped. with a little bit of the mixing and
Production.
mastering
Yeah.
with that song.
Yeah.
So that was, yeah,
Yeah.
so that helped a lot. And then you, and then I think just our flavor of styles just totally connected, and it
Mm,
just matched, immediately with exactly what I had in mind for what I
mm.
wanted some of these songs to sound like. And yeah, and then how many do we do? Five or six songs, I think, maybe
Yeah,
something
man.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that was during COVID. That was during 2020 when I had been furloughed from the company that I worked for, and I had
Mm.
2 or 3 months off that I've never had in my entire life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really
Wow.
got to sit down in front of my front of my studio here and just start coming up with ideas and start recording. And after you and I had done a handful of those tracks, I really had it in my head that once everything opened up again, and bars and clubs and everything and live music was coming back, that I wanted to play. I was really, really happy with how everything turned out, and I just thought I had to play these songs out live. And
Mm.
so that's essentially how Avarice was born.
That's,
And we still play all of those songs in our
yeah.
set live to this day. They're a little bit different now and sort of nuanced with our new lead singer, who's we've got a female singer now, so it's a little bit
Mm.
different. Kind of vibe to our
Hmm.
sound, but it sounds great. And
That's amazing. Sounds
yeah,
awesome.
so
Uh, that's that's unreal. It's such an incredible journey. Dare I say that J word, but the journey just from that whole Fiverr experience, the whole um, COVID experience from both our perspectives. It was just all this music came from all this nothingness, but just being inside a house or inside your studio because you couldn't go anywhere, you couldn't do anything.
yeah,
So it just forced people to do things that they wouldn't normally do. Um, I know for me, it took off like crazy as a vocalist. That people were like, "Oh yeah, I want you to sing all my songs," um, and of course everyone was at home, so they're all making songs, and we could go anywhere. So it's a session vocalist thing, and like yourself, and it helped a lot. And if it wasn't for that stuff, God knows where I'd be, because and you're probably much the same with your work and everything else. Um, Everything stopped, and I know I'm not alone in this. So many people are in the same boat. Everything stopped. I lost all my gigs overnight, lost all my sound stuff overnight. I lost
yeah,
so much work. And I just made the choice like 3 months prior to that to quit my full-time job um, in sales and went straight into music full-time, doing sound engineering work, doing whatever crew work I could get, session vocalist stuff. And if it wasn't for Fiverr, man, to be honest, I probably wouldn't be here,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is
for
which
sure.
is which is a crazy part of it all because there was a few moments in that time, and I guess I'm not alone, but there was a few moments in that time where it was like, what am I going to do? My livelihood's just gone down, and then at the time that everybody was stuck in that space, you couldn't really see or know the future, so it was like, well, what do we do? And it was yeah, everybody was in this limbo, I guess, but the music really brought it back to home, I guess, and also outline the importance of music in my life, particularly. And
Yeah,
of
definitely.
course, even working with you and a bunch of the other musicians I worked with, the same sort of thing. Everyone's like, man, if it wasn't for this, what would we do?
Yeah,
Us
we'd have
creators,
been
what would we,
going
there's
stir
no out.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, yeah. And speaking of that, has there been obviously we creators we go up and down with our journey of music and mental health. They sort of go hand in hand. Has there been a significant event for you that sort of really brought you down and that you've come back from, if that makes sense? If you've music sort of saved you in that space, or not even music, just anything in general. Is there like a significant mental health event that's happened to you? And if you don't mind, share it.
Yeah, it's a good question. There's actually two that come to mind that were probably the most, I take that back, about three that were most
Yep.
significant in my life. So the first one that happened to me, was actually when I was in college, and I worked for a cell phone store. I was like the manager of this cell phone store,
Mm,
and one day it was during the week, broad daylight. It was about 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Two guys busting into the door, and ski masks on, guns in each hand, and immediately they're like, drop, get to the ground, and they were like emptying out the register, and it was just me and the owner of this cell phone
Oof.
store, where I'm from in Ohio, in Toledo, Ohio, and it's really busy. It's like one of the busiest intersections in the city too, and it's a small town. Toledo's a small town. Compared to like where I'm at today in Phoenix. So,
Mm.
yeah, so they came in, and the one guy, basically cocked the gun, and I was just standing there at the register, and the owner was off to the side of me, and he was just like, give them whatever they want, and just listen to what they say, and at this point, I'm probably, I don't know, maybe 20, 21 years old,
Oof.
something like
That's
that.
a that's a lot.
So, yeah, so I was freaking out, and at one point, this whole exchange only happened, it was probably like, I don't know, 3 or 5 minutes worth of time, but it seemed like
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
And and at one point, the main guy, kid, whatever, he had the gun to my head, and it was about, that far away. And I was like thinking, because, I was looking at his hands, and his fingers were trembling and everything. I was like, one wrong move here, and I was like, this
Mm.
this could be it for me. And I was pretty freaked out. And as anybody could probably imagine.
Yeah,
And
man.
thankfully they didn't do anything other than, take the cell phones out of the back room, and the few $100s in the register that we had at the time, because we were only open for a few hours. But that was a pretty pretty big eye opener for me. And
Yeah.
it just like how quickly things
Things
can
can
change,
change.
in a brief minute.
Was
And I was in
was
my
there I was gonna say, was there an element of like post-traumatic stress after that? Like
oh yeah,
did you have like
totally.
nightmares and all those like
Uh,
issues and things that arose from all of that?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, the only semi-silver lining that happened immediately after that was, we had a really good customer who was a retired private detective, and so I called him immediately. And this was broad daylight, so there was all kinds of people in this busy intersection, seeing what was happening, seeing these guys with ski masks like jump into their getaway
Mm.
car and take off. So people were phoning in, what the car looked like and license plate and whatever. And we called that customer of ours, who was the private detective. And within about 45 minutes, they'd found them, and the owner of the store and I had gone downtown to the police station to ID them. And we're like, yep, no, it's the guy. And they ended up being customers of ours.
Wow.
Which was even more wild, once I saw them without the masks on. And I think the one guy was like, 23, the other one was like 19 or something like that. So they were just, kind of punk kids. But yeah, they were people that had been in our store before, and, that had
Mm.
bought phones or whatever. And so, so they obviously went to jail. And so that was a little bit of peace of mind that they got caught. But immediately after that, I was so like frazzled in my brain, like immediately got an alarm system installed at my house, and I got a
Hmm.
gun. And, I just kind of was like, what else can I do to protect myself,
Yeah.
um, because I was just so afraid of, that happening again. And then, yeah, like you said, I definitely had tons of nightmares about, that whole experience.
Yeah.
It was a bad day.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's rough. That's
Yeah.
rough. Super rough. But you got through it though, yeah?
Yeah.
Eventually, was it just is it the standard thing, time heals all wounds? Is that the sort of story, or did you actively do something to sort of help yourself get through it?
I probably should have, in terms of like, talking to professional and things like that.
Mm.
But it wasn't soon after that I actually left Toledo to move out to
Mhm.
Arizona.
Yeah.
And I felt that I was much safer out here. It's a bigger city, and it's newer, it's safer. There's not, I
Mm.
mean, yeah, there's crime everywhere. It's a big city, but definitely not to the level that was in Toledo. And
Yeah, right.
so yeah, so I did move out here. But I was in a band at the time when that happened, my college band Stunned. And I think it was just that was a big part of what got me through it, just, writing music and, playing shows and kind of getting my head out of, being, at practice. I
Mm,
was actually in
mm,
three bands. I went to school full time and I played in three bands at the same time too. So I was super, super busy on purpose. And I worked
yeah,
full time too. And I worked full time at that store.
that's a
So
lot.
yeah, so I took on a huge workload of everything just to probably keep my yeah, head and out of everything, and I
Yeah,
really didn't have any free time to think about anything
yeah,
because yeah, I went to school during the day and then I worked right after that the whole rest of the day, and then then gigs and practice at night. So
yeah, man. I hear that a lot. So many people cope just by doing stuff, like just moving in general, but they keep themselves busy. I'm
yeah,
guilty of it. I'm guilty of it too. I practice. I'm busy almost every hour of every day doing something somewhere, just to keep moving, keep the energy flowing. I find that when I've stopped, and you probably would have found the same, that when you stop, that's when the thoughts come. That's when the
yeah,
ruminating thoughts come, and you start thinking what ifs. And as soon as you're in what if, you're not now, and it's
down the
yeah, it's a
rabbit hole.
exactly
Yeah,
exactly right down the rabbit hole, man. So that's full on. That's full on. And
yeah.
of course, um, I know you've got some other experiences there too. But being in those bands and things, did it sort of come off, or you moved straight after that experience, yeah, or not long after that
Not
experience?
long after that. Yeah, I think that was my I think that was my final year maybe in college. And then so as soon as I graduated, I finished up the year, another 5 or 6 months, with my job, and then I straight moved out here
Yeah.
immediately. So.
And did you join any bands or anything locally in Phoenix?
I
Straight up,
did,
or yeah?
yeah, I did. Yeah, I was eager to kind of get back into
Mhm.
it. So I auditioned for a few bands, and there was one I auditioned for that was already like on MTV at the time and stuff. And this is
All right.
like early 2000s, and they were kind of signed and really good sounding kind of. I don't know, I guess new metal kind of band or whatever.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to like quit my job and kind of go on the road sort of
Wow.
thing. And I was really tempted to do it. Maybe I probably should have at that age just because I was so young. I didn't really have anything else to worry about. But I mean, when I looked at the pay of what it was, kind of on a weekly and show basis, it was
Mm.
definitely almost poverty level.
Yeah.
And so I did pass up on it, although I really wanted to do it. And but then not too long after that, I formed my first band that I started out here, which was called Sciatic. Um, and
Cool
uh,
name.
and that, yeah, it was a fun band, and that was together for I don't know, probably at least 3 years or so, something like that.
Yeah. Did you find that obviously that whole experience with the shop incident, did it sort of come out in your music in any way, shape, or form? Did it inspire anything? Did it, I don't know, did you write from like a place of fear or anxiety or something like did it influence it in any way, shape, or form, do you think?
I'm sure it did. I don't really write a ton of lyrics.
Mm.
Everything kind of comes out of me more on the music side.
Yeah.
And I'm sure just, having that, yeah, I mean, kind of aggression or, just kind of, maybe fear or whatever it was. I'm sure that did come out in some of those songs. But yeah, I mean,
Mm.
without that, I don't know what other way I could have translated that energy
Yeah,
out of
that's
me.
fair enough.
My guitar is like kind of almost, like an extension of me. It's like if I could be,
Yeah, man.
I'm sure just like you, if I could be playing it all day long and not have to worry about anything else, I probably would be doing that.
I
And
I think there's a lot of people that are in the same boat, man, whether it's
yeah,
guitar or piano or whatever the case might be. But yeah, it's just an extra, it's almost like an extra limb.
exactly. Yeah.
You've just got it there and you just called on it when you need. That's full on, man. That's a crazy experience. I can only imagine what you were going through. But is there any sort of, I guess, just being a creative in general, obviously, we have our ups and downs, and we have moments of like lulls where we're not really doing anything musically or creatively. Did you go through a spell of any of that at any point in your life up until now? Like, did you just go, I'm done with music. I'm 6 months, a year, whatever it was, I'm done. Is there anything that sort of happened in that way?
Yeah, there was. So my second band that I was in here in Arizona, it was a band I joined. It wasn't one that I started. It was called Thoughts Like Rockets, and it was kind of more of like a alternative, like
Hmm.
Jimmy Eat World kind of
Yeah,
style.
nice.
And it was really cool. Got along really well with the other guys in the band and stuff. And I was in that band for about gosh, I want to say that one was about 3 years as well. And then it was just like a crazy series of events where, the drummer kind of up and moved to North Dakota.
Hmm.
He got married and moved with his now wife to North Dakota. My singer, and he was a singer and rhythm guitar player. He got married and everything, and I think everybody was just kind of over the trying to start over, trying to rebuild it, and try to
Yeah,
find new band members.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know if this is the same for you out there in Australia, but out here, a lot of the venues, especially the better ones that you can play at, and getting the better shows where you're opening up for the national acts and stuff like that, the touring bands, you have to
Mm.
sell tickets.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the only way that you can get in, and it's even how they gauge what time your set goes on, and all that stuff. And it's kind of taxing on everybody.
Yeah.
It's not easy to hit up all your friends and family and everything, every month and say, hey, guys, can you come to the show and buy a
Yeah,
ticket?
full
And
on.
we need your support. And I mean, everybody, our network's been really good about that, but it's hard. It's hard to ask people to do that,
Of
especially if
course it
they've already
is.
seen you 10 times and they're like, okay, well, we've seen this before. So that, after that ended, which was in 2018, um, yeah, I mean, I didn't do anything for like 4 years, and
Wow.
I hated it. And that was kind of the same even from the when I left in college to coming out to Arizona. I mean, I think that when I came out here in 2007, it was from then until like 2012, I want to
Mm,
say.
mm.
So I think there's about five years in there, 5 or 6 years where I
That's crazy.
wasn't doing anything, and then it was kind of the same thing after that last band broke up. So I mean, I've had these really big blocks of time that I mean, maybe it was good that I had a little bit of breather, but definitely longer than I wanted it to be. And I always get the itch
Yeah.
to want to get back out there and, want to get in front of people and
Hmm.
perform live and get back in the studio and just that whole
Hmm.
creative process. So, it
Hear
really
that.
kind of makes me insane if I'm not doing it. It's not going to practice and things like that for me, it's not a
Yeah.
chore. Like I look forward to that at the end of, if I'm done at work at the end of the day and we're practicing on Monday and Wednesday, it's not like, oh God, I need to, pack up my stuff and go to practice. Like that's, top
Go
of
time.
mind, top of list. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's go time for me. That's what I look forward to. So, um, yeah, so
Interesting.
ha
Have you thought about? I know you obviously you do other work and stuff as well, and you said before when we first started that this is more like your hobby side sort of hustle than anything else. Have you thought about trying to do it full time again, the
yeah,
music thing?
I would love to. I mean, I've actually, it's interesting that you brought that up. So, kind of speaking to the mental health piece of this.
Mm,
So my real job is in medical device sales, and I've been in
mm,
that for a long time, for like 12 or 13 years.
mm.
And it's always just high pressure, quota driven.
Yeah.
Companies just kind of breathing down your neck of, what have you done for me lately?
Hmm.
Where are you at with your sales and things like that. And I've worked really, really, really hard for my entire life, with really almost no gap in employment, and working for different companies. And then I went independent. I became an independent distributor and kind of set up my own little company a few years ago, about almost 3 years ago. And I hear from a lot of my colleagues in my industry that just everything with the social media aspect to it, and just the stress and the quotas and the constant having to be on 100% of the
Mm,
time and, being
mm.
performing at 110% level all the
Uh,
time. It's
Sales.
really, yeah, it's sales, but I mean, it's super taxing, I mean, I couldn't tell you. I mean, there's been so many times where I've had a panic attack or an anxiety attack or, getting the
Yeah,
chest pains. And some days where it's just like, oh my God, I just don't even think I can get out of bed because I don't want to, go knock on doors and try to find new opportunities and that sort of thing.
yeah,
So, and it's not. I know that I wish it was just me, and it was that I was the one struggling with this, but I hear it from so many of my friends in my same industry that all struggle with it. And
mm,
for us, like we get customers that text us and call us at all hours of the day, early morning, late at nights,
yeah.
weekends. It never stops. It's just 100% of the time. And
That's
if
full
you
on.
don't respond and you're not on it, they could potentially not buy from you going
Mm,
forward, or
mm,
maybe you
mm.
lose that relationship, whatever it is. So it's a super high amount of pressure to always have
Yeah,
to be on. And so that's why, yeah, I mean, I've been, and maybe you can help speak to this, but yeah, I've seen bands, especially I saw a band this week actually on Thursday, and I talked to them about that too. Just how can you make enough money doing what we do in the music industry where there's really not a whole lot of money to be made, to support yourself
mm,
and do what you want to do, kind of do what you love and your passion, and but also
yeah.
still make a living and not be just a t-shirt salesman at the merch booth after the show.
It's it's there's so many variables within the music industry I've found, and I know that it slightly varies from place to place, but between Australia, America, all that kind of thing. You guys have more of a, I guess, more of a hustle side of things where you have to sell your own tickets and that kind of stuff. And we do too. We have to do a similar thing to that. But we could also just book a gig and spread the word and hope that people sell tickets and arrive. If they don't arrive, we still play a gig.
Yeah.
And if there's one person or 100 people there, it's sort of if the other band sold some tickets or not. Like we don't have to physically sell the tickets; it all goes to the venues, generally speaking. But it depends on the side of things. But this is when I made the decision to go full time music. It was very similar. I had this idea in my head that I'm just going to make it happen. I'm just going to make it work. I didn't know what that meant. I just had this faith in myself that I was like, you know what, this is it. This is the moment. And with that, it was almost serendipitous. I quit my job, and then within like a few days, I'd found out that my next door neighbor, they're an old couple, and their son was like the head of audio for this very casino where I'm in at the moment. At least he was. That's funny. And I found out that he was there, and he had a whole shipping container full of like audio gear. He's like, "Hey, you're a sound guy," and I'm like, "I'm a sound guy. You're a sound guy." It's like, "Yeah, cool." And these moments just started occurring, or these opportunities started occurring. So then I ended up being on a festival, working a stage with him for 4 or 5 days or something out in the west of Australia, and west of where we are, which was really cool. And then from that, other opportunities arose. I met a guy there that was like, "Hey, do you do composing and stuff?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, I've got a client that does a lot of like writes lyrics, and he just wants music to it." I'm like, "Done." I ended up doing like 15 or something songs with them, and that was it's again all these opportunities just kept coming up. That's when I started doing all the Fiverr work and the vocal session work and stuff came from that. Um, a lot of it was session work. A lot of it was um, composing opportunities and things like that. And then the other side of it was like the live sound side of stuff, um, which I had to do. Excuse me 1 second. Somebody's trying to get through this door here, and I'm going to open it up for them. Thanks, guys.
Maybe it's a fan.
Yeah, me, me. They stalked me. They found me. Um, yeah, so all these opportunities started arising, which was incredible. Um, and then, of course, COVID hit, and then all those opportunities went away overnight, literally overnight. It was mind blowing. I remember calling one of my best friends who owns a production company. Um, and for the first time, I remember this phone call with him, and I said, "Hey man, what are you up to?" He's like, "I'm literally sitting on my couch doing nothing." And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, "Man, are you serious? Like you never sit down and do nothing." It's like my workshop's clean, my factory's clean. I've got no guitars to fix. I've got no PAs out because it's COVID. I've got nothing going on. I'm like, man, let's talk about this. Like it was a crazy, it was a crazy time. But if I didn't have those connections, if I didn't make new ones like yourself, with other musicians and things, it just would have been a whole lot worse. Don't get me wrong, it was nice to have family time. It was hard, obviously, because we couldn't physically see anyone, that kind of thing. But the whole full time thing came from that, and then it was after that that I sort of I did something stupid like 357 songs or something in 1 year through Fiverr,
Wow, that's amazing.
which was yeah, it was a hustle, man. It was a lot, but at the same time, I sort of burnt myself out. And I got to the end of that year, and COVID had sort of eased up, and we could go back to live shows. So I was doing live shows again, sound engineering. Um, I was still doing Fiverr work, and then I was working at a horse stable, just mucking out the stables for 2 or 3 days a week, 2 days a week or
I
something.
remember when
Uh,
you said that. Yeah.
yeah, and then the opportunity came up for me to go back into like a 3 day a week job, doing IT, my first IT job, and I sort of took it because the whole idea of basically, if I didn't work, I didn't get a day off, right? If I didn't work, I didn't get paid, sorry, and therefore I couldn't take any days off. I couldn't do anything, and that was really, really hard mentally. My
Hmm.
family suffered, I suffered. It was like they didn't see me. I couldn't do anything. I was like, oh, I've got to work. Sorry. Um, so it was nice to then have those extra benefits of like a secure job, so to speak. And it was, through a school, so it was government. It was just easy, easy job, easy money, 3 days a week. I didn't have to stress so much. So that eased it up a bit. And I got really annoyed with music for a little while because I was just under so much pressure to output so much all the time.
Right.
So I even stopped my Fiverr subscription online or my Fiverr account, and I paused all my gigs, and I didn't do anything
That's why I never
for
got that email back.
yeah, that's right.
I'm just,
That's exactly
just,
yeah.
just kidding.
Block that guy. Block that
Yeah.
guy. I've had enough. I've had enough. But no, it was, and apart from a few connections like itself and the band, I'm above from Lithuania and a few of the other guys, America, UK, Cyprus, and Austria. These they're the sort of the private clients that I sort of took away from Fiverr, and we became good friends. Um, Much like us, and I kept going with that stuff every now and then, but it was very much on my own terms, and that's when I learned a lot about this whole mental health side of things, where I'd given so much there had to be an equal, opposite reaction, equal or opposite reaction. It's that law coming into play because I'd given so much, I had to recharge, and if I didn't take that time, God, I would have been a lot worse. So yeah, much the same panic attacks, anxiety attacks, all those things. It was full on. It was
Yeah,
really,
that's
really full
crazy.
on. But dealing with that pressure at the end of it all, um, I learned a lot about me and music and taking the time to nurture that space. Otherwise, the output's just not
Mhm.
there. You can try and give as much as you want, but yeah, you can only write so many lyrics because if you just burn yourself out, there's nothing left to give.
Yeah.
And
And I,
there's no point in that.
yeah, I can totally right. I mean, there's been definitely months and months that are, go by and I sit in front of my computer trying to come up with something, come up with a new riff, a new song, a new something, and there's just nothing that comes out, nothing that's quality, and I just get so frustrated, uh,
Yeah,
by the whole thing, and it's just you sit there for hours and hours, and it's like, oh God, all this stuff sounds like garbage. It's just, generic, and so, and then I kind of put it away for a while, I'll stop trying so hard, and then
uh
I'll one day just, to hear something and finish a whole song in, half hour.
yeah,
So,
yeah, man.
um,
I've also found that giving yourself permission to sound shit also works. And in a weird
Yeah,
way, like you take the pressure off. You just
yeah,
go, you know what? I don't need to do the best song. I don't need to write the next hit song. I don't need to write the next amazing riff, that carries me around the world. Like it's not that. Just it sounds crap. Just roll with it. And I've done that so many times, and I can't tell you, man. It's almost like um, it's like flushing out the system kind of thing. It's like yeah, just get it out. Just move it on, and then cool. I can do things now. I can
yeah.
yeah,
That's a good point.
the next song I do is better,
Yeah, that's a
or not,
really
and
good
that's
point.
cool too. But again, just giving yourself that permission, because if you don't give yourself that permission, that's when that pressure starts building up. You're like, "Oh, I've got to perform, I've got to be the best." It's that sales mentality, I think, that
Yeah.
you've obviously grown up with, and I also have had that as well, where it's just you have to perform 110% all the time. But if you don't give yourself permission to act or perform at 50% for one day, that 110% is going to go down to 0% real quick,
Yeah, I
real quick.
think the most stress is, with that is performing live, with the live show
Mm.
aspect of it, and I think we all have it in our head, at least I do, that we want every show to be perfect and to go off
Mhm.
without a hitch. But I think the reality is that at least for me, I feel like when I perform, it's almost like golf, It's like you can have like 4 hours where you're out there and every shot's terrible shot, and then you get one good one and you're like, oh my God, okay, that was great.
Yep.
It kind of made your whole day. And I think that live shows are kind of the same way. If you get through a whole show and nothing happens, it's definitely a huge huge win for the night,
Yeah, absolutely.
because inevitably there's always something, whether the monitors aren't in your ears, or the wedges or whatever, or something goes out, something cuts out. It's just always something, and
There's a
I've you know
variable there somewhere.
there's so many variables, and it's just so hard to control, what's going to happen in each venue and with each sound guy. And I mean, and a lot of times it's the sound guy that, as being a sound guy, it's the
Hmm.
sound guy that can either make or break your entire set and your entire night. You could have a
Yep.
great sound guy and everything sounds amazing, and you're like, oh wow, we played flawlessly. And then then you have the flip side of that, where you've got nothing coming through monitors, nobody can hear each other. This
Yeah.
happened to us actually at our last show, which was actually a big show. It was one of the
Oh,
worst experiences that that can happen. It was with a band called Stabbing Westward, which I was a big fan
that's
of. They were
that's that's brutal.
and none of us could hear each other. We were like kind of all in different zones, and the whole thing was just kind of a cluster. And
That's hard.
yeah, it was hard, and we beat ourselves up about it, and you know, but you learn from those mistakes, and you learn what fail safes to put in place, so that
Mm.
hopefully those things don't happen again. And so we
You,
learned a
you
lot
sort
from
of,
that.
I bet you do. Like that's the whole thing. You got to learn from it and move on. You can't just sit there and dwell in it. I
Yeah,
mean, I've had similar experiences where I just sit there and go, man, I could have just done that so much better. Why did I do that? Or why did that happen? Or but there's certain things you can control, obviously, and there's the things you can't control. You can't control the sound in most big venues and things like that. That's down to a sound guy. But at the same time, what you could control is maybe hiring a sound guy
right.
that that is familiar with your stuff, familiar with your gear,
And
at the
consistent.
very least, and consistent. Exactly right. Mind
Yeah,
you, few and far between, and and of course they would expect to be paid, and all this. There's all those variables as well. But
yeah,
that's sort of where that comes into play. But when you're starting out, or if you're just a support band, so to speak, it's hard because you're sort of just treated like you'll be fine. We're here for the other guys. It's not an issue.
right.
Um,
Yeah, you're
which
kind of the
which
afterthought, and
yeah.
but yeah, that's the hard part. So I think one of the biggest takeaways that we've started doing more lately is I have a good friend of mine. So actually, he was the previous singer in my last band too,
Hmm.
in the Thoughts Like Rockets band. But he quit his full-time corporate job to really pursue his passion in
Hmm.
photography and videography. And he's a great friend of mine. But so yeah, he's been really kind to video a lot of our shows, and
That's
you
awesome.
know um and things like that. And it's fine for social media and all that stuff. It's good for that, but it's really good for us to kind of see the playback,
Yeah,
to kind of go through
yeah,
it and say, okay, well, what happened here? Let's fix this for next time.
yeah. That's
And
brilliant.
so I think that's a huge, relatively inexpensive thing that, that a lot of bands can do. If you can just find
Mm,
somebody to do some pro shot video for you, for, a couple $100 or something like
mm.
that. And, maybe get the live feed from the soundboard, so you can actually hear exactly,
That'd
what you were
be
playing
nice
and
to.
yeah, what you were doing wrong. So, so I mean, and it's just like anything else, just like sports, how they, kind of watch the playback
Yeah,
and and learn from that too. So I think that's one bit of advice that I would give is I think that that's kind of a priceless thing to have is
yeah, man.
yeah,
That
get as
is
much video as
absolutely
possible.
priceless. Yeah, no, it's absolutely priceless. We used to do the same thing. It was just even just a phone recording. If we couldn't set up the video somewhere nice, it was just put the phone on with a sound recording on it and just hit go. And we couldn't necessarily see things, we could hear things, and we could replay the moments in our heads as to what we did and what we didn't do, and that constructive feedback, man. As long as you don't take yourself too seriously, it's like at the end of the day, you're there to enjoy yourself and have some fun. And I know that I used to put so much pressure on myself as a musician, especially as a vocalist, as a front man,
Hmm.
just to perform top notch every single time. And it came down to a point where I lost my voice for a festival. It was 3 days worth of shows. We had like 7 or 8 shows in 3 days to do, and I think I did one.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
and then the next three, I had no voice. And then the fourth sort of show or fifth show, I had some of a voice, and then it sort of came back slowly. And by the last show, I had something to give, but it was just nothing. And I was dirty with myself for months because I let myself get into that state of mind, and it just put me in this place where I was like, you know what?
It's out of
Fuck
your control. Yeah,
it. Yeah,
it's just out of your
out of my
control.
control.
There's
Yeah,
there's nothing you
yeah.
can do about
I
it. That
yeah,
stuff happens where
yeah,
you're sick, you've got the flu, whatever. You still have to play the show, and you feel like shit. But
yeah.
you kind
And
of
but it's funny though because it's like like the show must go on mentality, and that's true.
yeah.
That's true. And we could have pulled the shows, and we would have been fine. Nothing would have happened. We're not AC/DC. It's not the end of the world. But even nowadays, I'm seeing more and more bands, bigger bands even, saying, "Hey, we can't go on tonight due to this." And it's
Yeah.
generally a pretty big thing. Like the lead singer can't actually sing, or something decent, that they're actually sick, legitimately sick, and they can't just push through. Because the more I find that it's like borrowing health or happiness from the next time. You might push through with I know singers get steroid injections and all sorts of things like that to help
Yeah.
them get through the night and stuff like that. But then when that wears off, the next day they're even worse.
You're dead. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
totally dead.
it's just ridiculous. So I just found looking after yourself in that respect is a huge part of it. But why it came about in the first place was the pressure, and the pressure of trying to be um, the best all the time, and you just can't do that. You
It's
just can't do
impossible.
that, and you need to
Yeah.
accept that you can't do that. And it's
Yeah.
something that I've had to learn to accept in myself, which I know you're probably much the same. Because again, I think it comes from that sales-driven
It is, yeah.
mentality.
Type A,
Where like,
yeah, the type A
yeah,
personality and sales driven, and where you just should be
absolutely.
100% all the time. But things happen. I mean, I saw a band, a national touring band on Thursday with my buddy, and even though they're not at like, Metallica level status or anything like that, they're still a touring band, and
Yeah, of course.
I felt awful for them because, as soon as they started. The guitars were non-existent. The sound guys were trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
messing around with the iPads on stage and everything, and you can see how aggravated the guitarists were. And so it was like 5 or 6 songs before, those even were
Mm,
kind of in the mix, and they used a lot of backing tracks, so it kind of covered everything up. But you can see them kind of shredding, and nothing was really coming
couldn't
out.
hear it. Yeah, that's
And
upsetting.
then there was a part, later in the set where something they got totally off the click, and the tracks were going and they had totally stopped, and it was just a total disaster,
Mm,
for about 10 seconds, and I mean those things happen, I mean
it really does, man.
whether you're the local, opening act or you're the national touring band, I mean, things happen and you
Yeah,
just have to roll with the punches and move on.
yeah, I hear that, man. I hear that. Um, I wanted to ask too, is there a song that is kind of like your go-to song? Like it maybe it's something that's pulled you through some mental health stuff, or maybe that has um, maybe it's just something. I have one of my guests, Josh, and he was just on here before. Hey, Josh. Um, he had this song where he's like basically deposited memories into this song, which I thought was such a cool idea. You know, all the good things uh, he gets back from when he listens to this song, which I just love that idea. But is there something similar for you, or just a song that resonates with you that gets you through the rough times?
Yeah, yeah, there is. And I don't know why it's the case, but Interstate Love Song, Stone Temple Pilots,
Great song.
for whatever reason, I mean, it's part of my childhood. I think that came out when I was, gosh, I don't know, maybe in high school, no, junior high or something.
Yeah,
I don't know, but you know, it just always there's something about that song, just the whole vibe of it that just kind of makes me happy inside. Every time I listen to it and it never gets old. I could listen
yeah,
to it every single day and I'd go, that's still a killer song.
yeah. It is a
Um,
killer song, man.
and it was just so beautifully written. Everything is just totally perfect in it. And I can't really identify like where it puts my brain, but I would say that's probably the one song that I would go to, especially if I'm like not having a good day or
Yeah,
something
nice.
happened and just blast that on and
That's
it
great.
it just definitely helps.
That's awesome. It's funny because I had to learn that song. I had to cover that song. We were asked to sing it for a wedding.
Oh, really?
This is like 10, 12 years ago or something now with my old duo. And it was one of his favorite songs, my duo partner's favorite songs at the time as well. And I remember learning it going, man, this is a killer song. It's a really, really cool song, nice and uplifting at the same time. But I don't know. Yeah, I agree. There's something about that song that's really cool vibe and feel to it. I love how music can do that, man. Honestly,
What's
I just
yours?
I've got a few. When I did the introduction episode to this, my song was "It's Pushing Me Away" by Linkin Park, but it was the live in Texas version, which is slightly different to the original. And that song to me, they got me through all my high school years of bullying and all sorts of stuff. So it's a very, very strong sentiment to that song, or very strong emotional attachment to that song. But the other song that I have actually is, and I can listen to any time, any day, anywhere, and it's Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's like one of my all-time favorite
It's a
songs.
great song. Yeah.
It is a great song. I remember trying to sing it, when my voice hadn't quite cracked or my balls hadn't quite dropped at the time. I remember trying to sing it as loud as I could at home and really reaching to hit those high notes, or what I thought were high notes. Just turns out it's a physicality.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do
Um,
much better than that actually.
yeah,
So
yeah, funnily enough, it's crazy. But we got there in the end, and it was. I just love that song. I love
it's a great
it's
song.
what,
It's a super
yeah,
great song.
just for whatever it stands for, whatever it does. I don't know what it is about that song, but I don't want the world to see me because I don't think that they'd understand. It's just, yeah, it's a great lyric, and I think it resonates with so many people on so many levels. So it's a really, it's a really cool space. But man, I'm really mindful of time, and we've been chatting for nearly an hour now. And man, I think we could probably keep chatting for another 3 hours at this
For
rate.
sure.
Um,
100%.
but I'm respectful of you and your time as well. And I've got a family that's probably half fried out by the pool here at the Star Casino. But I really want to thank you for your time. I appreciate
Yeah,
you.
thanks for
I
having me.
appreciate your time. Man, my absolute pleasure. I love what you're doing, and I love watching your journey as well with Avarice, and even just as a solo musician, as a guitarist, and as a songwriter and stuff like that. My door's always open if you need to, one, chat, two, play music, three, produce music together. Whatever we want to do, it's going to happen. I'm sure we'll do many more things
Likewise, for
in the
sure.
future.
100%. Yeah,
Thanks, man.
100%. In fact, I will tell you, we had a band meeting last week, a dinner. I was like, "Hey guys, grab a bite and talk about a few things. But one of the things we did talk about kind of going forward was we're like, you know what, we really need to do pre-pro for all of our stuff going forward. And where everybody was just like, well, why don't we just work with Tim on that, you know? And
That's nice.
we'll track here, you know, locally at one of the studios, but
Yep.
you know, we'd love to continue you know, working with you and doing
Oh, that's
pre-pro
lovely.
and you know, getting your advice and input on that because it definitely made a huge impact, you know, not only for the stuff we've done, of course, but also for some of the Avarice stuff that's now out finally streaming.
Awesome.
So
Awesome, man. So, so,
so yeah,
so stoked for you guys. That's incredible, man. Well, yeah, congrats to you and the band for the releases, of course. Great job. Stellar job. Awesome
thank
mixes,
you.
awesome songs. And I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more in the future. And hopefully one of these days I can make it over there and we
That'd
can
be
do
awesome.
a live show
Yeah,
together, which would be incredible.
I would love
Uh,
that. That'd be awesome.
yeah, that'd be a journey and a half, wouldn't it? That'd be
Yeah,
so much fun.
that'd be so
Oh,
cool.
man.
Yeah, you mentioned
Well,
Lincoln Park. I was just gonna say real quick. So
yeah,
we're
yeah,
our next show is actually with an amazing Lincoln Park tribute band called In the End. They're from LA,
yes,
from California.
yeah.
We actually played with them earlier this year too, and it was probably the biggest crowd we've ever played to.
That's awesome.
And so we're stoked to be opening up for them again in January,
That's unreal,
January 24th
man.
at the Marquee Theater here in Tempe. So yeah,
Cool.
so I mean they look the part, sound the part. I mean they sound I mean you would not even believe it wasn't, you know, actually Lincoln Park
That's
in front of you. That's
that's
how good they are. So
amazing. That's
yeah,
amazing. Love that. Love that. And of course, Linkin Park have the new album out with the new female
they
singer.
do.
I don't know.
Yeah, they tried to
I don't want
copy
to
us.
spark. Yes. I don't want to spark any debates here on the lead singer, but I enjoy it. I think it's fantastic, and I really love the new album and the sound that they've got going on. But
Yeah, I do too.
that's a whole other conversation and a whole other mental health journey that they would have been on too with losing Chester and all that stuff. But
Yeah, it's tough.
man, huge, huge. But man, thank you again. Appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll connect in the near future, of
For
course.
sure.
And to anybody watching that has been watching, if any of this stuff has somewhat resonated with you, or you got anything out of this, just let us know. Send me a message. Send Jason a message. Reach out, chat, talk to somebody if you need to. Reach out for help. That's the hardest part I've found is just starting a conversation. But I'm always here for a chat. I love to chat. I love to talk.
Likewise. Yeah.
And Jason, I'm sure this is the same. But reach out to your local charity groups or local organizations that do that kind of stuff because there's so much stuff out there available. It's incredible. You don't have to suffer alone. And if anything, music for us creatives or just creatives in general, be creative, but give yourself permission to be not particularly at your best. That's probably what I got out of this conversation. Just give yourself that permission to not be the best and then move past it,
Yeah.
accept it, and see where that puts you. Um, Thank you, my man.
Thank you. And thanks for putting this series on. I'm sure it'll help a lot of people. So,
Well,
you know, we'll
that's
try
the
to,
plan.
yeah.
That is the
And
plan.
I'll,
More conversations with more people. There's plenty more people to come, and I will announce my next guest in the next coming days, and we'll sort it out. But yeah, stoked to have you on board, man. Thanks again.
thank you. Yeah. Tell the family I said hi.
We'll do, man.
All right.
Much love.
See
See
you,
you guys
buddy.
soon.